Welcome to Seeing Dead People, the mystery storytelling podcast with a clairvoyant twist. We end every episode with Darcy answering a question from a listener about her psychic process. Whatever is going on in her head, I think it's so cool and astonishing. Trust me, you're going to have your own questions. Now, before I let you go then, I've got our very popular listener's question for you this week.
All right.
This query comes from Tom, who wants to know if you have premonitions. And he says, if so, Darcy, is this typical of other psychics to be able to see both the past and the future?
Okay, I'll answer that one first. The part about is it normal or typical?
Okay.
Psychics to have both past and present. And the answer is actually no. Okay. Sometimes some psychics or mediums or intuitive people just see the future or right now. Now, are we all capable of having premonitions from the past? Absolutely. Think of deja vu. But not all psychics or mediums can see the future, like the premonition of something that's going to happen.
Okay.
Now, to use an example, 9/11. Okay?
Yep.
We're all familiar with it. Well, up to a week before it happened, I was having dreams of people falling out of a burning building, and I told my friends about it. And I went, like, what is this about? I could smell the smoke, I could hear the screams, and I could hear the fear. And a friend who's a police officer in Ontario phoned me and said, because she's up way before I am.
Yep.
And he goes, have you seen the news? And I went, no. And she goes, go downstairs. And so I went, trooped downstairs and turned on my TV, and there it was. People jumping out of windows in the smoke. I went, oh, that's what that was. And she went, doesn't it affect you? And I went, no, now I know I have my answer. And so, yeah, occasionally I see premonitions, but I have no idea what they mean.
But is it not unbelievably frustrating that you have a premonition for an event you can do nothing about, and then have the event happen and not have been able to do anything to stop it or improve on it?
Well, here's why. Because most people don't believe us.
Right.
Okay? So telling someone that is like opening a can of worms to have them pick you up and question you.
Right, I get it.
Okay? And yes, it is frustrating when you can't stop something because you don't actually know what you're trying to stop, because when they only show you a burning building and people falling and smoke, and it's like, okay, that could be anywhere. I lived in a townhouse, 2 stories, and I thought, okay, I made sure all the burners were off and everything every night.
So why do you think then we'll use you as the example, you get these specific scenes? So they're not enough to tell you where it's happening. They're not enough to tell you when it's happening or actually what is happening. But you could have been given other scenes that might have given you more clues. Why do you think it's just random, or how does that happen?
I think sometimes you're supposed to know to prepare yourself, because a lot of people fell apart that day, and there had to be people that were still strong throughout it.
Okay, so you're saying you're forewarned just so that you can be one of the people who can bear the tragedy.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a different way of looking at it. I would never have thought of that.
Well, the reason I say it is because my daughter saw that, and she just looked at it once and started crying. My friend was crying. And it's like, well, who's going to see the rationale behind this?
Right, and when you say your daughter saw it, she saw it live.
Yeah, she was watching the news too, and she just broke into tears.
Yeah, like pretty well everybody else in the world, perhaps, except for the few psychics like yourself who were seeing the premonitions.
Well, yeah, and there were more of us that saw it but could not put it together.
Right. Huh, I guess that's something you got to learn to live with.
Yeah, you definitely have to. And you think of the kids that were drawing pictures of it.
Were there kids that drawing pictures of it?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's cool. So they're younger kids having premonitions.
Oh, absolutely. Anyone can have a premonition, even you.
I'll hold you to that.
Let me do this. Have you ever gotten into your car and thought, I think I need to go back in the house for a minute, but I forgot something?
Well, I've forgotten things, but I know I've forgotten something.
Yeah, but normally you just drive away, okay? But you get out of your car and you go back into your house. That is a premonition that something's wrong and you're preventing something from happening.
Well, I guess that's true. I tend to think premonitions are, giving you information far more in advance, than it's happening. But you're saying within seconds.
And there.
Well, that's fair. I mean, that's a fair definition. I would agree with you that you could say a premonition can be seconds ahead, or like you. When did you start dreaming of 9/11?
2 weeks.
Okay.
Before.
Okay, I had not thought of premonitions being that short-lived, so to speak.
Okay, I'll give you another one for a premonition. During the war, and the mother would hear a phone call, and next thing you know, there would be a telegram telling her son was dead, and she already knew it.
Yeah, you do hear those stories, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah, that's not uncommon, that's for sure. But would you say those people aren't automatically psychic, because not everybody is psychic, and yet many people get premonitions? So that kind of goes back to Tom's question. Is it typical for people to have premonitions, or are they more psychic in order to get premonitions?
Everyone is born intuitive. It's whether they choose to listen. And anyone, whether you're psychic or not, can have a premonition.
Okay, that's a good straight answer. Thanks.
Okay.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to Seeing Dead People. Whatever's going on in Darcy's head, I think is so cool and astonishing. We'd love to hear from you with questions for Darcy about her psychic process, or suggestions for other mystifying situations you would like us to investigate. So please, shoot us an email to info@radiosidney.ca with Seeing Dead People in the subject line. New episodes of Seeing Dead People will emerge on the first Saturday of every month, and will also be available every Saturday night at 8 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10 a.m., both Pacific Standard Time. Seeing Dead People will also be available as a downloadable podcast online at radiosidney.ca for your convenience. Cool news! Seeing Dead People is now a podcast on YouTube. Just search for Nicola Furlong Mysteries, and you will find 3 podcasts of videos dedicated to Seeing Dead People. One for our actual complete episodes, another for Darcy's fascinating answers to our listeners' questions about her psychic process, and a third with teasers highlighting each episode. Thanks so much for listening to Seeing Dead People. I really dig researching, writing, and communicating with Darcy and her otherworldly contacts. So until the next time, remember, Seeing Dead People is a blast with Goosebumps Guaranteed.
This has been a program of Radio Sydney.